videos we will upload more patriotic news. Scaramucci, repeatedly denied a White House role, finally sees a reward. White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and President Donald Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon confronted Anthony Scaramucci in the West Wing on Friday morning, threatening to block the financier's appointment as Trump's communications director. Scaramucci left it off, according to a person familiar with the exchange, because he knew something they didn't. He already had the job. For Scaramucci, the appointment completed a remarkable journey that saw him rumored for one senior administration job after another, only to see the offer slip away amid internal opposition from Priebus and others. Now the telegenic Scaramucci, a fast-talking fixture on the international circuit from Davos, Switzerland, to his own lavish hedge fund conference in Las Vegas, is at the center of power in the chaotic Trump White House. He is now charged with repairing a toxic relationship between the press and a president who regularly rips what he calls the fake news media. At a White House briefing on Friday, Scaramucci, widely referred to as the Mooch, spoke repeatedly of his love for the president, to whom he said he will report. "I think there has been at times a disconnect between the way we see the president and how much we love the president and the way perhaps some of you see the president," he said. Invoking Wall Street lingo, he added that there might an arbitrage spread between how well we are doing and how well some of you guys think we are doing, and we are going to work hard to close that spread. Scaramucci said he hopes that Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who resigned Friday after registering his own opposition to Scaramucci's appointment, will go on to make a tremendous amount of money. He also repeatedly expressed his desire to work closely with Priebus, who he said he'd been personal friends with for years. "We are a little bit like brothers where we rough each other up once in a while," he said, noting that he once offered Priebus a job at his hedge fund firm. He said Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be elevated to replace Spicer, who will leave in August. "The Navy SEALs will tell you that if you want to eat an elephant, you've got to do it one bite at a time, and Sarah and I will do that together," he said. People who know Scaramucci say he could be a good fit for this new challenging role. A relentless networker who emerged as a major conduit of Wall Street cash to GOP candidates in recent years, Scaramucci generally likes and respects reporters and understands they have a job to do, people inside and outside the White House say. He is a fierce counterpuncher who emerged in recent months as a Trump favorite for his television appearances defending the president. But he also likes engaging with the press and wants to present the White House message in a positive way rather than get dragged into daily scrums. "When I first met him, within moments he drilled down into who I was, where I was from and what my worldview was," said Stu Loeser, who served as spokesman for former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and now runs his own advisory firm. "He's an incredibly charming person. And right now you have a White House that is so angry at its press corps, and vice versa, that it's impossible for them to interact in even the smallest way and have positive movement forward." One White House official who backed Scaramucci's appointment said of the former hedge fund manager, "He gets that we have a First Amendment in this country and that reporters are just trying to do their jobs." Critics of Scaramucci's appointment, including Spicer, argue that the former Wall Street executive has no real communications experience and could flounder in the very difficult job of representing a boss who often ignores messaging advice and simply says whatever he wants whenever he wants, no matter what it means for his struggling agenda. And Scaramucci hasn't always embraced the same commitment to transparency he talked about from the podium on Friday. A few years ago, while interviewing PR firms, he was blunt about what he was looking for, according to one person present for the meeting. During the 90-minute meeting, Scaramucci told this person, "I need someone who's prepared to go to the mat and lie for me." One thing Scaramucci has right now is the admiration of the president for his many appearances on cable TV. That's something Spicer, demoted from his on-camera job speaking for the president, sorely lacked. Scaramucci, 53, was not always such a big Trump backer. During the 2016 primary campaign he cycled through several candidates, beginning with Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, then moving on to former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, before finally coming around to Trump once the real estate magnate secured the GOP nomination. Scaramucci was never Trump, but he was critical of the GOP candidate on Twitter during the primaries, something Democrats gleefully noted on Friday. In an August 2015 appearance on Fox Business, Scaramucci referred to Trump as another hack politician who would become president of the Queens County Bullies Association. Scaramucci said Friday he has repeatedly apologized to Trump for his comments. As soon as the primaries ended, Scaramucci offered his services to the Republican National Committee and the Trump campaign as a major donor, fundraiser and prominent public surrogate for the GOP nominee's economic plans to cut taxes and regulations. After Trump surprised the world and won, Scaramucci made plans to sell his hedge fund, Skybridge Capital, in anticipation of taking a senior White House job. Initially, Scaramucci thought he would get the job of Director of the Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs, a senior role equivalent to one held by Valerie Jarrett in President Barack Obama's White House that manages relationships with big business groups. But bidding Scaramucci's sale of Skybridge to a unit of China's HNA Group and Run Transatlantic held up the appointment. So did opposition from Priebus, who urged Scaramucci to pull out. Scaramucci's name was later mentioned for other top advisor jobs and possible ambassadorships that he declined. The Skybridge sale still has not closed. And Scaramucci said Friday his start date wouldn't be for a couple of weeks so that everything can be 100% totally cleansed and clean, and I don't see an issue with it. Recently, Scaramucci accepted a post at the Export-Import Bank, but he always had his eyes on the West Wing. And after taking on CNN over a now retracted report about his finances, Scaramucci rose even further in the estimation of a president obsessed with pushing back on negative media coverage, especially from CNN. The job of White House Communications Director completes a long climb for Scaramucci, an Italian-American born to modest means on Long Island, where his father was a construction worker. He graduated from Tufts and Harvard Law School before beginning his Wall Street career in investment banking at Goldman Sachs, which has produced many of Trump's top aides including Steve Bannon, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn and Deputy National Security Advisor Dinah Powell, among others. Scaramucci left Goldman in 1996 and began a hedge fund career that included the founding of Skybridge in 2005. In 2009, Scaramucci launched the Skybridge Alternatives SALT Conference in Las Vegas, an event that quickly became a star-studded extravaganza featuring the likes of Magic Johnson and Kevin Spacey along with top politicians from both parties and senior Wall Street bankers. Scaramucci became a regular on financial television including CNBC and later relaunched the defunct Wall Street Week, made famous by Louis Rukeyser, and sold the broadcast rights for the show to Fox. Now he's getting a chance to complete what he describes as a personal dream. I have a lot of family members that served in the American military, he said Friday. I did not serve, I filled out the selective service. It's one of the regrets for my life. So this is an opportunity for me to serve the country. I love the president. Lobbying revenues rise despite congressional gridlock. President Donald Trump and congressional Republicans' inability to shepherd major legislation through Congress doesn't seem to be hurting the swamp. Most of Washington's top lobbying firms saw their revenue rise in the second quarter, after fears among some corporations and lobbyists, and hopes among some Trump supporters, that the president's election in 2016 would curb Washington's influence industry. Despite the difficulty of getting major legislation done, this is probably one of the most active periods in recent years that I've seen, said Daryl Conner, a lobbyist at K&L Gates, which saw its revenue rise to $4.6 million in the second quarter from $4.3 million in the first quarter and $4.40 in the second quarter of 2016. Akin Gumb, the top grossing firm in D.C., raked in $9.7 million in the second quarter, according to newly filed disclosures. That's up from $9.4 million in the first quarter, and it matches the amount of Gump's revenue in the second quarter of 2016. Brownstein Hyatt, the second-place firm, brought in $6.9 million in revenue, up from $6.7 million in the first quarter and in the same period last year. Corporate America is still anxious that an errant presidential tweet could batter their businesses, though that feeling has calmed down in recent months. And companies still don't know what Trump's administration will do on health care, taxes, trade and a host of other issues, but they are spending heavily to influence the outcome in the meantime. There's still a high level of uncertainty, said Elizabeth Gore, the chairwoman of Brownstein Hyatt's government relations practice. So companies continue to shell out on lobbyists to make sure they have a voice in Trump's Washington. With Congress largely gridlocked on big-ticket issues, much of the action is taking place in the executive branch. We are still doing a lot of work on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, Gore said, as Trump's cabinet agencies reshape regulations and the White House continues to issue executive orders coming. John Raffaelli, the founding partner of Capital Counsel, which represents blue-chip clients including AT&T, ExxonMobil and JP Morgan Chase, said he expected lobbying firms would see larger bumps in business later this year. The appropriations process is going to be going full speed, taxes are going to be going full speed, he said. Some firms, including those with former Trump campaign staffers on board, have already seen big leaps in business. BGR Group, a leading Republican-leaning firm co-founded by former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour, brought in $5.7 million in the second quarter, up from compared to $5 million in the first quarter and $4.5 million in the second quarter of 2016. Dave Urban, an early Trump supporter who helped him carry Pennsylvania, is a top lobbyist at American Continental Group. The firm raked in $3.3 million in the second quarter, up nearly 40% since the first quarter, and close to twice as much as it brought in during the second quarter of 2016. Urban has signed clients including Comcast, Raytheon and the National Retail Federation this year amid persistent rumors that he'll join the White House, potentially as chief of staff if Reince Priebus leaves. The most successful former Trump campaign hand on K Street may be Brian Ballard. A longtime Florida lobbyist, Ballard served as a top fundraiser for Trump during the campaign and opened a Washington office after he won. The firm, Ballard Partners, took in $2.3 million, outdoing many more established lobbying powerhouses as it's brought on clients like Amazon, Uber and American Airlines. Even Avenue Strategies, the firm started after the election by Corey Lewandowski, Trump's controversy-prone former campaign manager, and another Trump campaign hand, Barry Bennett, has defied skeptics by posting solid numbers. The firm took in $450,000 in lobbying revenue in the second quarter. Not every firm is enjoying a surge in business. The Podesta Group, which had been seen as close to President Barack Obama's administration, saw its revenue drop to $5.2 million in the second quarter compared to $5.5 million in the first quarter and $5.9 million in the second quarter of 2016, although the firm's revenue remains one of the highest in town. David Marin, the managing principal of Podesta's public relations practice, said any declining in lobbying revenue was made up for by an increase in the firm's communications work. "We're much more than a quote-unquote lobbying firm," Marin said. "We're a strategic communications firm." Subject Matter, a well-known Democratic-leaning firm, has also taken a hit. The firm brought in $2.1 million last quarter, down from $2.5 million in the second quarter of 2016. In 2016, we were an all-Democratic firm in an environment in which I think people were expecting Democrats to win the presidency, if not the Senate as well, said Steve Elmendorf, the plugged-in lobbyist who's one of Subject Matter's co-founders. Since the election, the firm has brought on 3 Republicans and is looking to hire more. "Our goal is to be fully bipartisan," Elmendorf said. Still, he doesn't expect the firm's revenue to return to its previous level until next year, although anything could happen. "There's never been an environment quite like this, because there's never been a president quite like this," Elmendorf said.